Hello students, Michael Sanchez here. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got about 16 students in the class today, and I'm going to be talking about the bow hold and talking a lot about just bow flexibility with students in the last couple weeks, and I figured I'd give you guys some good tips on that. So to let some of you guys know that, more beginner, basically the more flexible our hand is when we play the violin, the better. So I can't tell you how often I see students that bow that they're kind of playing more like this, where their wrist isn't really flexing, isn't really moving, compared to how they should be moving, just like this. So kind of as I start to come up bow, my wrist starts to bend into a claw. Notice that my wrist is level at this point, and it kind of stays level as I come down away from me. As I come up, I kind of adjust it accordingly so that it stays level. Make sure when you're doing that your arm isn't doing this, stay down. You can actually grab your arm at this point and practice this. What you can actually do, a lot of you guys know this drill if you guys have been taking lessons from me, but you can actually put a coin on your wrist and practice just trying to balance a coin or some sort of object as you go back and forth. That's really good practice to build flexibility in the wrist. So grab your arm, take your left hand, grab your right arm, make sure it's in the same spot, and then just kind of come up and down. So basically you're extending out, you're bending as you're coming back and trying to keep that cord around the wrist. Obviously, if you have your wrist like this, it's going to fall, and then you did it improperly. It's kind of hard to do that while you're playing, so it's kind of a good drill to do without actually playing. It's good to kind of warm up with it that way. I call it the wrist drill. So very, very important. But yeah, I can't tell you guys how often students in some way are tense when they're especially coming up bow. So the most tense spot in the bow stroke that I find is when students are about at this spot right here, coming this way, right here. This is where they struggle the most to really let the wrist bend. It's a lot easier to kind of do this instead of this. It's a lot more comfortable, a lot more natural to do that. And part of the reason is, if you think about it, if something is, say, away from you, let's say I have a ball in my hand, it's away from me. Wouldn't it make sense to use all the muscle you got to bring that ball back into your side? You wouldn't use your little wrist to kind of bring it back. Okay? The natural tendency of the body is to use the whole arm to bring something back. That's kind of the concept. When you're coming up bow, it's very easy to want to use the whole arm to bring it back. That's incorrect. You want to use just the wrist like that. Obviously, you want to keep the bow straight through that process. A lot of times, students that have a stiff wrist as well, they kind of have a crooked bow. Watch what happens when I keep my wrist kind of locked. You see that? Watch what would have happened if I bent the wrist. Now it's in proper position, like that. Okay, so what are some ways to build flexibility? That's a great question. The number one drill that's been working so well for students, this works for students that have been playing a couple weeks. Actually, Jeffrey, who's in the class today, he's been taking lessons for a couple weeks. I recommended this one to him, this drill. But even students, like another one in the class right now that's been playing 20 years, this is a good drill. Basically what you do is you put your wrist up against the wall at this point. Could be a door frame, just something to restrict everything back here from moving. Right here, obviously my hand is going to be my wall. And just kind of practice starting off by just bending and throwing your wrist in a circular motion. Just like, as relaxed as you possibly can be, like this. This is kind of the way you want to start. You don't want any tension. Tension's bad. Just kind of do that to warm up, to kind of get loose, okay? And then what I want you guys to do is grab the violin and try to only move about this far, but use the index finger to kind of pull the bow back and forth, and also use the wrist to kind of pull the bow. You're only going to be able to go so far. You want to keep the bow hold the same. You don't want to change the bow hold to kind of help you. That's kind of cheating. Keep the bow hold the same, proper, and then just throw the bow back and forth like this. You see the flexibility in my wrist? Also, do you notice I'm not moving anything here? I even grab my wrist right here. You see my index finger moving? That's kind of what's helping the bow get back and forth. Like I said, don't keep your fingers real straight, tense. You don't want that. When you're doing this, you want your fingers to stay bent and relaxed. So this is a great drill to work on, and I highly recommend it because it's going to build, like I said, flexibility in the hand. And when you're going back and forth, especially when you're transitioning the other direction this way, that's when you have to use those muscles. You have to use the index finger to kind of push it back. If you're noticing any sort of bow bounce, any sort of bow squeaks, any sort of bad sound, most likely it has to do with you not using enough of the hand, the wrist, the small muscles. So this drill is really good. I would recommend you guys practice it, say 2 minutes before every practice session. You're not going to see a big difference, you know, with one time or even doing it every day for a week. You have to let it be a long period of time. So like say a month. After a month, you're going to start seeing a difference in your transitions. Transition is when you change bow directions. But just by doing that every day, you're going to see a big difference. And I'm going to kind of just bow a little bit, just kind of watch how the first time I'm going to do it, my wrist is going to be really stiff. Second time, I'm going to be really flexible. Yeah, this is not bending. Good. Next, this is me being flexible. So very loose, there's no tension, bending wrist, using index. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to be taking questions from students here in a second, but this video is going to be posted on YouTube. I highly recommend you guys come check out these classes. Next week, Thursday, I'm actually going to be doing another class here at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And I'm also teaching a class next week sometime. And I'm actually going to go to gallery view to show you guys everybody in the class right now. So everybody wave to everybody. So this is our current class. It's always growing every week. So last week I had my dad on here and we had a good time. But yeah, this class allows, I believe I'm up to 25 for sure. And then I think if I get the premium package, it allows up to like 100. So keep wanting to have more people, and I highly recommend you guys come check it out. So thanks so much. Have a great day. Talk to you guys soon.